Welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast, strategies that help entrepreneurs build reputable and profitable brands. Here's your host, Henry Kaminski Jr.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to another Brand Doctor Podcast episode. We have not your average athlete on today's show. I want to introduce my man, Brandon Copeland from the New York Jets. What is going on, my man?
I cannot complain. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. I literally reached out to you on Instagram DM, and I was like, you know what? It's a shot in hell that he's going to respond. And sure enough, he wrote back and he said,
right
let's
time,
do this.
It's right time, right?
Yeah, man. So I appreciate everything that I've learned about you in such a short time. So I've done my research, and I want to really showcase how you are really setting the bar at a very high standard as a pro athlete. And so I want to go behind the scenes for a second. I want the inside scoop of Brandon Copeland. Let's start from the beginning and talk about your journey to the NFL.
Yeah. It was a roller coaster ride. So basically, from Baltimore, went to a small private school called Gilman, very rigorous from an academic standpoint and strong from a football standpoint as well. From there, decided to go to the University of Pennsylvania, was a late bloomer on the football field, went to the University of Pennsylvania, try to be a big fish in a small pond, so to speak. Always was thinking of football as a means to an end, and then finally, I'm giving you the SparkNotes version. Finally, played well, really my sophomore year, and that's when people started, hey, man, you think you can go to the NFL? I think you can go to the NFL. In my mind, in the back of my mind, I always wanted to, always thought it would be cool, but I never wanted to get my hopes too high and then it not work out and then everything just be, life or whatever else I was doing in life be an afterthought or just a letdown after being so high on the NFL. Like most kids are, most of us are, again, it was my dream. However, I always kind of kept it as a afterthought, a means to an end. If it works out, it'll be great. It'll boost everything I'm doing. However, it's not my true one and only goal, so to speak. Ended up going to, getting a chance to go into the NFL and going into my pro day. Before getting there, I started dealing with adversity. I had my first major injury, tore my meniscus squatting on January 21st, 2013. Had surgery February 1st, 2013. My first major injury, first surgery. That was 6 weeks before my pro day, which was March 18th. Worked myself through it. As a 6-week rehab process. It's 6 weeks just to let the thing heal. In 6 weeks, I needed to be able to run and do the best that I've ever done on the field. So it took 3 weeks to try to let it heal as much as possible while rehabbing a couple times a day, while also going to school, and then took 3 weeks to just train and try to get ready for the my pro day. Fortunately, by the grace of God, had a great showing out there. And from there, it was just, almost like a rock climbing wall. It's just grab onto a little bit higher, hold on, and then, get situated and grab onto another rock. And so, I've been practice squad my first 2 years, my first year. My second year, I was 2 weeks on the practice squad and then cut and sat out for the rest of the year. Basically, when you say cut means fire, means release, means you're not good enough. And, worked out, trying to get on teams, wasn't able to get on. Finally, I gave myself a year that January 2015, gave myself a year to get back into the NFL. And by the grace of God, they had a veterans combine. The first year, and I think the only year that they've done it, only 2 people out of 100 people thousands applied, but only they only accepted 100, and 2 people out of those 100 people have actually made it back to the NFL. And I'm one of those people. I'm not sure if, the other is still playing at this time or not. Well, actually, I know another who didn't make it directly into the NFL. And then a few years later, he got back into the NFL, and he was at that combine, and he's also a Penn grad as well. So only 3 of us in the league right now.
Awesome.
But, perseverance. And a few years later, after that veteran combine, I went with the Detroit Lions. Was active ever since then, finally getting my chance to start a couple years later because I was a special teams player prior to that. And on the first preseason game, I tore my pec. Had to sit out for the year, all of 2017. But while sitting out, really trying to take it as an opportunity to figure out, hey, wow, what would life be like without football? How can I provide for myself and my family? Will I have to go into the quote unquote working world and make a living that way? Nothing wrong with that at all. However, is that what I will have to do, or can I go ahead and use this entrepreneurship degree that I have / this entrepreneurial creative mindset that I have and try to create something, create an income. So that's when I really got into real estate and from there, just continuing to, I'm always interested in a bunch of different things, but just continuing to actually attack them and go for them as opposed to just being interested in them. So fast forward to 2019, I'm playing with the Jets now and trying to just take it a day by day. I was a professor last off season. Kind of just go for anything that I'm actually interested in. Don't wait till I don't wait till people tell me it's okay or the quote unquote time is right. The time will never be right or perfect. Just try to go for it. And then, even on a day like today, when we met, you can see there's a lot going on. Right. And it's just, hey, I commit myself to something. I'm gonna make sure I do it. So that's just kind of how I live.
Oh man, I love it. There's so many questions barreling in my head right now. So a couple of things. One is, what was going through your head when you were going through those rough patches of getting cut, not making the team, going through that, because you got the taste of it. You were there, you're on the field, you're playing, and then you get that call like, sorry, pal, and you're out. I think entrepreneurs and folks that are watching and listening today can resonate with that, because as you become an entrepreneur and you're growing in the entrepreneurial world, there's going to be a lot of upsets. I was watching NFL Network last night, and they were doing a whole big thing on Chris Collingsworth. And Chris Collingsworth said, it's all about getting knocked on your ass and being able to get back up. Like that's the deal. So what was going through your mind when you're getting these calls like, sorry, don't know what to tell you, right? How did you keep that positive mindset, and what kept you going?
Yeah, great question. I think that a few things. I think one, I've always had a fear of failure, a major fear of failure. And
why is that,
I think some
Brand?
people shy away. I don't know, to be quite honest with you. I think that maybe that's just the way I'm wired. I don't mind something that I'm truly passionate about. I do mind, I truly mind failing at, right? Like, I'm not to be quite honest with you, I know some people talk about competitiveness and all that type of stuff, and I don't care if it's racing to the next light. I want to win. I'm not that dude. Like, I don't, there's the things that I care about and am extremely passionate about, and things that I don't. I am competitive when you talk about football and my sport and respect and all of that type of stuff. But, again, if we're playing checkers and you beat me, I don't give a shit. To be quite honest with you, right? It's not going to ruin my day.
Right.
Now, fear of failure, again, is something that I'm, it's just something like I do. I genuinely care about football. I'm I'm afraid to be embarrassed in front of the people's whose opinions I actually care about. I don't care about a lot of people's opinions, but certain ones, my mother, my wife, my brother. I have a son now. Clear, he's only 3 months, so he doesn't really have too many opinions about anything. But, eventually one day he'll be he'll be listening to me and the things that I'm telling him, and he'll be able to, with our technology, he'll be able to look at my life and see like, hey, Dad, like, are you really telling me stuff that you actually did? Right? Not telling them to do football, but like, did you really persevere through something? Are you really persistent? Right? Like he'll be able to fact check me. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's one thing that's driven me too is, also understanding that I just don't want to live with regrets. I've had the opportunity to intern at major firms and major banks and sit next to people and shadow people who've had amazing jobs, amazing salaries, and to the outside world, oh, they're living the dream, right? They're bankers, they're this, they're that, they're this. And, when you literally ask them, are you happy? I've had people literally tell me, no, like I do what I need to do for my family and I get the job done, but I'm not happy doing this stuff, right? So for me, I've always wanted a life of more, and I've always been chasing my own financial freedom, financial happiness. It's not even just financial, my own happiness. Part of that, I link to financial freedom, being able to do what I want when I want. That's not spending money frivolously. That's just being able to make decisions and do what I need to do when I want to do it, and not having to stress over those decisions. And for me, football has been a major key for that. So for me, it's been a no-brainer to continue to work through those times because, one, my fear of failure and being embarrassed and having to come and tell my mom, I didn't make it, I wasn't good enough. And not that she held that pressure on me, but that's just my own natural pressure. Two, again, just my own wants for myself and my life. And then, I'd really leave it at that. There's, you can get into a rabbit hole with all the different things that I thought about going into it and into those sessions. But, that's kind of what kept me driving through, because there's multiple times that, I could have given up or quit. But, I had a bigger picture, bigger perspective in mind of what I was trying to accomplish.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. I love it. So we have a question from Facebook. Nick Carnival asks, how did you turn failure either in sports or other aspects in your life into a positive?
Yeah. Motivation. I mean, for me, prime example, at my football camp this past summer, it was our 4th year doing it. Beyond the Basics Inc. is the name of my wife and I's foundation. We do a football camp every summer. This year we had about 400 kids come out, and we literally do not care about football. We have football drills there. That's the draw to get people there. But we're talking there's a bunch of young adult professionals and stuff like that, people that they can apply with and interact with and get interested in being a lawyer, a doctor, whatever it may be. At my camp, I put up a bunch of banners, and a bunch of them were negative quotes next to positive quotes. What I revealed during the middle of the camp is like, these are negative quotes that people have said about me directly. Wow. Right? You're too fat, too slow to make it in this league, said by a head coach in the league. Another, there's so many. Oh, I remember when I got tore my pec, there was a comment on when the Lions announced it, hey, let's not act like this is some big loss for the team. This is no big deal or something like that, right? Like little things like that I use as motivation. I screenshot it. I know some people say don't read into it. I don't read into it all the time, but sometimes I enjoy that. I love that because I would love to meet those people right now and just shake their hand and smile in their face and say, yeah, you thought I couldn't do it, right? Now I think that there's you don't want that to be your sole motivation, right? Like I would look back on my life disappointed and disgusted with myself if I got to 70, 80 years old and I'm like, wow, I just went through all of this stuff just to prove this one or two people, these two people wrong.
Yeah.
That's living wrongly, right? Like that's just a waste, I think.
Yeah. Because those people don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. And I mean, I don't like to draw too much. I like to do what I want to do and accomplish what I want to do, not worry so much about other people's opinions that now I'm living a life for them. You have people, they talk about all the haters that they have. I got haters, man, these people hate, like, all right, like you picked out for all those negative comments and quotes about me, there were 20 positive ones. So like, you don't spend too much time feeding into the negative. However, you can take it, use it mentally to continue to push you forward. So,
yeah.
And I'm sorry for any background ambient noise. My son is giving my wife a fit right now.
No, you sound good. I don't hear anything. Right. No, you're good. You're good. So let's get into the topic of conversation today. We were talking on Instagram DM about how you're a co-professor, or you are working at the University of Pennsylvania, teaching financial literacy. So I wanted to talk about this because I struggled with this my whole life. Okay. So I grew up in a modest home. My father actually raised me, and he has the first quarter he ever earned.
Wow.
So you know what I mean? So he never spent a dime, and I was a little bit on the opposite side of that. So I had this very wealthy uncle who, when I went to go visit him, it was like lifestyles that are rich and famous. So when I would go and hang out with him, I'd be like, holy shit, I want that. Like I want, right. And then I would go back home and I would see how like my father was raising me, and there was this huge conflict in my head. So what happened was I was always a hustler. I always grinded. I always, I started this business literally from scratch 13 years ago, and here I am still standing. And so when I first came into some money on my own, I spent everything dime,
Yeah.
My wife now, my girlfriend at the time when we were first starting, my accountant, you made X amount of dollars this year. Where is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I couldn't give him a good answer. So,
right.
And I see a lot of athletes out there, they come from a place of brokenness. They struggled their whole freaking life to get to the league. This league is now sort of like their savior and their way out and their way to create a name for themselves. And now they could use that as influence for the better. Because I see a lot of you guys doing a lot of charitable things. I absolutely love it. But there's a few guys out there, and there's a lot of folks out there that do not see the intelligence that needs to be seen in order to take that money that they make and invest it. Sometimes they put too much eggs in one basket, and now they're like, oh crap, I'm out of the league. Chris Howard was on the show not too long ago. He played for the Jags, right? And he was like, we used to, what the NFL really stands for. And I says, what? And he says, not for long.
Not for long. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he was like, and he was telling me how like average span is like 4 years. And then after that, so you can make a good couple million, but after you pay this guy and you take care of that family member and you do, like, you're left with maybe $1 million to live for the rest of your life. Is that enough? And the answer is no. So what do we need to do? What do we need to do to start thinking about being smarter with our money?
Start early. You just start early.
Oh, here he comes. I got you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was saying we need to start a lot earlier. I think a lot of people give athletes and everyone, entertainers coming into a lot of money early. They give them a huge they make a big deal about guys losing and spending frivolously.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that, people should take a step back and think about, like, okay, hey, you're 21 and I give you $2 million,
Mm-hmm.
$1 million, $500,000, $400,000.
Yeah.
Let's see what you do with it. Right. Good luck. Right. There's also people who aren't making that much money and, doing the exact same thing. Right. So I think that the reason why I started trying to bring and shed more light onto just, I don't even like to call it financial literacy. That's why I kind of nicknamed the course Life 101. It's just things that we deal with in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, these are topics that are constants for a lot of us. And for some reason, the first time you talk about it is when you're actually sitting down at the table to buy your first house or buy your first car or whatever that may be. So I think that's the only way that these things end up correcting themselves or fixing themselves is by long-standing education from an early age on, right? Because if you don't know, then you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
And like I tell my students, if no one ever taught you that 2 + 2 = 4,
Mm-hmm.
and I ask you what is 2 + 2 equal, and you say 6, you can't look at this person and think, oh, this is an idiot, right? Like, who's ever had a conversation with you about your credit or your budget or your checkbook, or, people might mention it in passing, but they don't really sit down unless like these things actually like vital to us as working, operating adults in this world. And I mean, I was actually thinking about this the other day, and I'm not going to get political at all, but, I think they were talking about how the budget deficit has risen, another $1 trillion or whatever it may be. I'm like, us as a country, we can't even, like, we don't even balance our own checkbook correctly, right? Like, everything that we do nowadays is operating in debt. You see these companies that are, they killed it in their earnings portfolio, right? And they literally haven't made $1 yet. They're operating in the negative, right? And so it's like, we give people and individuals these bad reps, like, oh, how are you doing that? How are you losing money? How are you in debt, right? Like, we as a country are in debt. Some of the best companies, or the companies that we enjoy the most, on a daily, are operating in the red, and I just think that it's an interesting, thing to think about. Is like, it's just interesting. I think, again, it takes a long time to correct, but it starts with just conversations, and that over time will help right the ship. And the last thing is also, there is no right or wrong answer. That's one of the things too that's big. Like, the reason why people don't have these conversations is because you're like, oh, well, I don't want to tell you that I spent this much this month, because you're going to think, based on my budget, I should have only spent this. There is no right or wrong answer. It's really just educating you so that your different options available. The consequences, good and bad, of the decisions you're making, as opposed to how we've been operating and currently are operating, where it's just go with the flow.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Brandon, what do you tell a fellow teammate or someone that you care about when you see them spending frivolously or going a little crazy?
It doesn't last forever. Not to cut you off, but
that's it.
It doesn't last forever. And again, I'm also none of us are perfect, and I never want to come from a judgmental, condescending tone. So sometimes it's just a little joke, like, "Ooh, you got money," and that's just kind of how we joke and jab at each other. But it's like, or you can't hide money, man. Can't hide money. That's one of the things we always say in the locker room. But it's just, it doesn't last forever. And again, I'm never going to come from a place of, oh, I know more than you, or, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. No, like, if that's what makes you happy, That's what makes you happy. Just understand the consequences of your actions, because as you buy 2 or 3 different cars, again, that money might be nothing now, but when you're out of the league, that's your child's tuition in college or whatever it may be. That's a whole year's worth of tuition. That's, a couple years worth of bills, whatever it may be. So, yeah.
I like that you bring that up, because I feel like, and I felt this personally. I mean, when the money was rolling in hand over fist, it felt like it was going to be there forever. Right. It's sort of that fictitious, feeling like, it's only going to get better next year, right? We're only going to make more money as we continue. And it's not true. I mean, I've had some horrible years. I mean, first year my son was born 2 years ago, I went through a horrible financial crisis internally. I wasn't ready for fatherhood. I went and bought a $180,000 car and just to get my mind off of it. And then I'm like, what am I doing? My wife is like ready to leave. And it was just it was awful. And so I pushed reset. I just pushed the brake. I stomped the brakes, got rid of the car, and started to reprioritize my life. And eventually I was like, wow, I have a little guy now I need to provide for. I need to set, I need to set an expectation for him. I need to set roles for him. So when he grows up and Googles my ass, he's not disappointed. So very similar to you, a lot of the things that I do today, people ask me like, you seem pretty set and seem pretty solid. Like, what drives you? And I always tell them, I said, there's going to be a day where my son's going to be able to Google my name, and I want to make sure that he's proud of what he reads.
Right.
And I think when we refocus our reasons on why we do things, I think it's really going to help us tremendously make that decision. Do we buy the Rolls Royce truck, or do we, put that money aside and take care of Junior's college fund for the entire, his entire college career? I think as we mature, so I knock on wood, but as we mature, I feel like we start to think a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? We're a little bit more conscious, right? What we do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's as you mature, but it's also after you make the mistakes. And the sad thing is we all are making the same mistakes, right? Like, it takes you buying the car to think about, and it takes you going through that situation with your wife and the car and the financial crisis for you to be shaken up to say, okay, hey, let me do this a little differently. One of the things my former coach, Jim Caldwell, used to always say is a smart man learns from his own mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. And, I think that's powerful in the thought that, like, okay, how do I try to change up the education or the conversation around this, where now everyone is wiser, so to speak. You're still going to make mistakes. You're still going to, have your own moments and you splurge and all of that type of stuff. Again, not telling you how or what to spend your money on. Yeah. But, the biggest thing is making sure that you and we all aren't just making the same mistake over and over and over again. And we all just keep not sharing the information. Yeah. So we all just continue to hit the woe is me. I mean, all these companies, I'm not even against the companies, but some of these companies are winning and hoping you don't read this, or hoping you take this, or you just sign your name, or whatever it may be. And, again, they're reason why. And they're just hoping we don't talk about it and smarten up or wise up, I guess. So
I love it. So as we wrap up, I have a question for you. There's guys like you in the league, and then there's the other types of guys in the league. I want to know what you dedicate, or what you would say helped you really get smart with your money and say, I need to I need to build up revenue streams outside, or I should say off the field, and not put all my eggs in one basket with all the income coming on the field. Who helped you and what helped you decide, man, this isn't going to be forever, and I need to think about my financial health for when I retire?
Yeah, I think two parts to that. I think one, I've been blessed with amazing perspective on life, and I'm truly thankful for that. So
where's that come from?
I think that's from God. I mean, I know that's from God, because there's a lot of things in my life that I've dealt with that some people will curl up in a ball and die, or be pissed off and quit a long time ago. But I look at it as an opportunity, or a challenge, or whatever you may call it. So I think that's the most important thing, is the way I take information in and manipulate it so that it works and fuels me. Is, that, again, that you kind of, it's not that you're born with that or you don't, but there's certain things that you just can't practice, and, you can talk to certain people, and if you tell them something, they just crumble up. And others, you just see them get, lit on fire with just, okay, you just sparked something here. So that's one thing. Another thing is I've also been blessed to have the vision or to see the life of my grandfather, who played 11 years. And unfortunately, he passed away in January 6th of this past year. But seeing, what the game has left him with, or had left him with, always helped me, even unknowingly at the time, have a different perspective on the game, and on understanding that, hey, when I'm 55 years old, the Jets organization won't be, with me if I'm sick, right? Like, when my grandfather was on his hospice bed, the Baltimore Colts weren't around him. Yeah, they sent flowers to his funeral. The owner, the coach, Jim Irsay, tweeted about his death and reached out to our family and stuff like that, which, again, is beautiful.
Very
beautiful
nice.
Things. And, however, again, like what really matters in all of this, right? Do the tackles that he's made matter? Does the Super Bowl ring matter? Or does the people he's affected, the people he's helped, his family members, all of that stuff, does that matter more at that point in time? And so, again, seeing what the game has done to him, for good and bad, it's made me want to use the game more than he did. And that's also from his advice of using it and the platform more than he did, so that I can take it and create whatever else I want to create with it. Again, I understand that people answer my emails a little more excited now that I'm an active player, as opposed to when I'm not an active player. Or if I go into a classroom full of kids, they're going to be excited because I'm an active player, right? Whether they're Jets fans or not, right?
Yeah.
And that's power.
Yeah.
Not in a manipulative, evil power, but I understand my power and my influence right now.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, it would be foolish of me to ignore that, and to knowing that the effect will be less after football. It would be foolish and lazy of me to not work my tail off throughout this process.
I love it. I love that you recognize that you have that influence right now, and that you're willing to leverage it for the positive and to make a difference in other people's lives and these kids' lives. And it's very admirable. It's very honorable. And I'm watching a lot of you folk that are doing this. One of your teammates, Ty Montgomery, I want to get him on the show. We've been playing tag back and forth on Instagram as well. But you guys have these big hearts, and you guys are leveraging your influence for the good. And I find that to be extremely honorable, and I appreciate you for mentioning that, because there may be a few folks out there that are in influential positions, and, it's all about them. It's all about them. And, you having that empathy and you having that outlook of like, what can I do to help other people while I'm still here is just phenomenal. So one last question and then we'll wrap it up. 50 years from now, 60 years from now, 100 years from now, somebody mentions your name in conversation. How do you want to be remembered?
Simply put, I want to be remembered as a person who helped a tremendous amount of people, even if they don't know that I was the one that helped them. So whether that's that might be, for example, kids came to my class, some high school kids from Philly came to my class and had my college students teach the high school students about investing or budgeting or whatever, right? Maybe one of those kids ends up being in a better position over their entire life, and that's helping their children and their family and et cetera, right? So, one of the things my high school used to always say, a man built for others. I truly hope that my family obviously is very, I don't want to say appreciative, but very
proud.
Proud of what I've worked for and what I've tried to leave them with, but then also, and not even just what my wife and I have worked for and what we've tried to leave them with, but then also people outside of that circle, the kids who come to our camp and hopefully been affected positively, the kids who at our camp, we make 1,000 book bags. The campers make 1,000 book bags and we hand them out in Baltimore City. Like those kids will never know my name, right? However, they might have a better school experience because of what we're doing in our community. So again, for me, it won't be, I do hope to leave my family well off financially. But again, when you mention me, I don't want them to go, oh, that's he left his family with a lot of money. No, I'd hope it'll be more about how I've truly affected the person and the individual and the culture, so to speak.
So the impact you leave on people.
Exactly.
Love it.
Exactly.
I love it. So let's shed some light on your foundation and share with the audience where they can go to learn more about it.
Yeah. So you can go to www.bcopeland.com. That has a bunch of information on me, but also a whole page dedicated to my foundation and the things that we're doing. We're going to do, we're doing the holiday shopping spree for kids. We're going to do a charity basketball game this year for the first time. And actually, this is my first announcement of it. But, we'll do a charity basketball game at the Nets Arena, the Barclays Center. But the goal with that is just to get a bunch of kids who couldn't afford to enter an event in Barclays Arena, get them at the game, right? So Beyond the Basics Inc. is the name of the foundation, to answer your question. We really kind of just do events and just really do things that we want to do to give back to the areas that we're in, our hometowns and stuff like that, and make a positive impact on the area. So
I love it, dude. I love it. So we got a couple comments and I'll let you go. So Nick Carnival says, makes me a proud Jet fan. And then he says, beat Miami and the Giants for us diehard fans. Nick and I were actually at the Dallas game. And we stayed to the last minute, man.
Yeah,
what a game, dude.
Man.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, man. So that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. So there you have it, guys. Brandon, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and spending time with us today. I know you're a busy guy. You got 1,000 things going on. And I hope you guys got some value out of today's episode. Brandon touched on a lot of things that, may have resonated with you. And I want you to just do one thing. Whatever you took away from this conversation, I want you to take action on it. So whatever went, aha, yes, I get that. Yes. I want you to make it happen. I want you to do something about it. Yeah, you could listen to Brandon and I talk for another 3 hours if you want, but if you don't do anything with it, it means nothing. It's a waste of time. So whatever you got from today's episode, I want you to make an action plan and make a deadline and actually do something about it. Because I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did when it came to spending frivolously and not being smart with my money. Brandon's doing phenomenal things with his money because he knows that he's got bigger reasons to why he's doing what he's doing today for his family's future, for his future. So it doesn't last forever. And that was one of the big takeaways I got from this conversation. And it doesn't last forever. And at the end of the day, what's important? What's important? So have an amazing day, guys. And I will catch you on the next episode. Take care, guys.
You've been listening to the Brand Doctor Podcast with Henry Kaminski Jr. To get your appointment with the doctor, visit Brand Audit at www.uniquedesigns.net.